What's up, guys? Burley Hawk dropped this really good meme, if you will, on his Instagram. It's the thumbnail, so no need to put it in here, but it's true. Like, shut up and listen, and you will go places. And obviously, this is directed at the beginner novices. And funny enough, those seem to be the people who will always argue the most vehemently against a certain training style or philosophies, or will question people that they have no business questioning. So yeah, it's funny. I'm in. There's a Facebook group. I'm in the powerlifting motivation Facebook group, and you see this almost every day. Like, there's people with insanely huge totals, or big single lifts, who coach other big lifters, who will post, knowledge in there, a lot of free information. It's a great resource if you sift through the bullshit. But among this free information that they post, somebody will always question them, and it's not another strong person who questions them. It's not another good coach who questions them. It's always some dumb noob with 1,000 pound total or less that questions them without fail. There was one this morning, even before recording this. Uh, you know, uh, Information was posted basically based on Dr. Squat, Sam Bird, and it just so happened to be my former coach who posted this. And there was some person that said, "Oh, well, from my experience," and then explained from his experience how this philosophy was incorrect. Well, this person's experience led him to a 981 pound total. And he's 19 years old. So it's like, dude, you have no experience to base it on. And he's a perfect example of shutting up and listening, will add 200 pounds to your total. So I kind of want to segue that into it's, we learn from people who have done it before, and their experiences. The sciencey part of things, the studies are great. Um, I would never say disregard them, but what you inevitably run into is, you'll have a handful of lifters doing something that they've philosophically done for a long time. They've done with great success, and you'll get one dumb fucking twink noob that will say, "Oh, well, this study showed that what you guys are doing is 0.005% suboptimal than if you were to do it this way." And it's like, this noob will argue that based on some study on trained individuals, who are bench pressing 185 pounds. There were 7 people in the study, but he will cling to that study and try to tell, again, like 5 experienced, successful lifters who all do the 0.05% suboptimal thing that they shouldn't be doing according to the study, but they all do it, they all implement it in their training, and they all do it with success. But, guy who hasn't even competed yet will tell them what they're doing is wrong because a study said so. So there's some contrast there. There's, studies aren't the be all end all. Anecdotal stuff from successful lifters aren't the be all end all, but there's a gray area in the middle, which is where we should be learning from. So, and another thing that I've said many times in streams, I've probably said on a few videos too, is with the lifter anecdote stuff, where I just, kind of dissed on the scientific part. As far as the lifter anecdote stuff, like if your favorite lifter does something, don't be dogmatic about having to do everything he does. You are not him. And just because he's doing it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to train, even if he has a 2,300 pound total or something. That doesn't mean him doing that is necessarily the best way to do it. Now, if him and 10 other people with a 2,300 pound total are doing it, along with a couple 198s that have a 2,000 pound total. Maybe you throw in a couple, IPF Raw National or Raw World Champions, at lower weight classes or higher weight. If you see a plethora of successful lifters all having something in common, that's what you probably need to be working on implementing. And I made this post on Facebook last year, 2 years ago, something along the lines of, if I set out to be Mr. Olympia, that was my goal. I wanted to train to be Mr. Olympia. Well, the last 10 Mr. Olympias, all of them said, hey, I eat a gallon of ice cream every night. Plain vanilla Breyers ice cream every night during my prep. I don't give a fuck what the science says. I don't care if science says that is the dumbest fucking thing to do for bodybuilding. If the last 10 Mr. Olympias all said we ate a gallon of plain vanilla Breyers ice cream during our prep, and they all 10 won Mr. Olympia, well, goddammit, I'm going to eat a gallon of Breyers plain vanilla ice cream every night during my prep. Now, I know that's a bit nonsensical, but that's just to drive home the point that, all of these guys were doing it. They were all Mr. Olympia. My goal was to be Mr. Olympia. 10 guys all did the same thing in becoming Mr. Olympia. So fuck all whatever studies there are that might be discrediting that. All 10 of them did it. You bet your sweet ass I'm going to do it too. So, and that's it, guys. If you're new, it's good to have conversation and learn about things, but don't, especially if you haven't competed or your total is 1,000 pounds less than somebody else's total, don't try to fucking tell them what they're doing is wrong or that what they have is not useful, etc., etc. You have no business interjecting there. And, shutting the fuck up and listening is probably going to be your best bet for gains. Just observe. If you see two high-level athletes having discussion amongst each other, and it's funny because normally when two high-level athletes are discussing things with each other, even if they disagree philosophically, it will be a civil conversation and they're open to each other's ideas, whether they ultimately adopt those ideas from each other or ultimately think, your way is wrong and my way is right. It's generally a civil discussion, whereas you get some dumb fucking noob who, again, doesn't have a total or, squats 200 pounds less than I bench or something like that, will call an experienced, successful lifter a dumbass for whatever he's doing, even though that lifter has one lift that's bigger than, this noob's entire total. So it's just a funny dynamic there, but yeah, 8 minutes of rambling just to basically say shut the fuck up and listen.